We'll begin with this story talking about concerns and criticisms that have mounted over potential consequences of having foreign military bases on Nigerian soil. Now, the federal government has had to come out to clarify that there are no plans for the country and some foreign countries on the siting of foreign military bases in Nigeria. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says Nigerians should disregard the falsehood. He went on to say that the federal government has neither received nor considered any proposal for the establishment of foreign military bases in the country. And still in relation to this, the United States Chargé d'Affaires has clarified that the U.S. is not planning to build a military base in Nigeria, contrary to the stories circulating in the country. In an exclusive interview with TVC, Ambassador Green acknowledged that indeed the Niger junta asked the U.S. to leave, but the U.S. has no current plan to build a base in Nigeria. Moyo Thomas has details.
Nigeria enjoys a robust military cooperation with the United States. This has significantly helped Nigeria's counterterrorism fight. It has also, to a large extent, helped to stabilize not just Nigeria, but the West African region. The U.S. has promised to continue in this partnership, while reacting to the story making the rounds on plans to build a military base in Nigeria.
I'm not aware of any such conversation, and I'm not really sure whose purpose it serves to agitate on this point. So we will continue our very strong security cooperation with the Nigerian security services and the Nigerian military and Nigerian government, and that will always be in a spirit of partnership and respect for each other.
Also, on other partnerships, he says the U.S. government spends about $1 billion on health and humanitarian assistance in Nigeria yearly.
An assistance agreement that covers a 5-year period for about $2.5 billion, but we add money to it as it becomes available, and one of the areas where we've added a lot of money in recent years has been in the humanitarian assistance side. So that's reached almost $300 million a year out of that billion. But it varies. You know, some years it's 900 million, sometimes it's 1.2 billion, but it's an awful lot, and we're very proud of the cooperation that we pursue through it. A lot of the money comes, I'm sorry to go on, but a lot of the money comes through the President's Emergency Program for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, and that has, we've accomplished great things together in terms of bringing us to the verge of epidemic control of HIV/AIDS here. So, you know, we're making the investments.
The U.S. affirms its continued commitment to improving the Nigeria-U.S. bilateral relations, including in movements of people, as the Chargé d'Affaires disclosed that over 87,000 visas were issued in 2023. Some have expressed concern over increased insecurity in the West African region as the U.S. military base is set to leave Niger. They believe that avoiding escalated attacks in the West African region may require more proactiveness from ECOWAS in order to ensure continued stability of the region. Moyo Thomas, TVC News, Abuja.
Interesting. It's a good thing that the U.S., through its representative in Nigeria, Ambassador Green, has come out to refute that statement, saying that there is nothing like that, talking about establishing a military base in Nigeria, because the concern for a majority of Nigerians, as we're speaking behind the scene, was that what have they done in these other countries where they were, be it French troops, be it U.S. troops in other West African countries or African countries where they were based. You always have heard of reports of abuse and not necessarily bringing stability to the countries, talking about security-wise or whichever way they had that agreement to coming. And that was why the junta in Niger decided that, you know what, you people should leave our country, we'll handle the situation ourselves as it is. And so Nigerians began to speak up. You know how we are, we don't keep quiet in this country. That's one thing I like about us. We do not keep silent where we hear rumors, whether we can establish it or not, we just begin to speak our minds. and then it is important that the government come out to respond, and that is what we have seen, which is a good thing. So we are both on the same page as it is. It is, if we begin to see something else, then we begin to say, you know what, government, you did not speak the truth at the time.
That's right, and I love the fact that the Chargé d'Affaires also, dismissed that rumor. Whether it's a rumor or not, there is always an element of truth to something.
In every rumor.
So it could be exactly. So it could be that they're mulling it, because it's not only Nigeria. They're also looking for other places. Trying to go back to Niger, trying to also see if they can have the base in Ghana. The sub-Saharan Africa, they still just want to continue spreading the tentacle. And one of the critics, I would like to read this, they argue that the U.S. military bases in Africa can perpetuate neocolonialism, undermine local sovereignty, and exacerbate regional tensions. So they're also concerned about the potential for increased militarization, which might overshadow diplomatic efforts and development initiatives. So some see these bases as potentially destabilizing and contributing to a cycle of conflict rather than fostering peace and stability. And that is what we see in Niger, one of the reasons why they ousted their democratically elected government recently. We see that in Burkina Faso, we see that in Gabon, and all of that. So I do not exactly know what positivity or what goodness is going to be brought by the U.S., because even in their own country, they have their own problem. Yesterday, we still saw in the news of a guy who went to a church in Pennsylvania where the pastor was delivering sermon, and then he drew a gun, at the pastor, and he's also currently charged with homicide after seeing his brother, dead, and all of that. So they have their own internal problems, and they should stop acting like global police. In fact, the U.S. foreign policy, they are becoming very, very, unpopular. Look at what is happening in Gaza, for instance. They're supervising Israeli, genocidal act against the Palestinians. We see what the Russia is doing to Ukraine, and how they have actually taking attention away from Ukraine and focusing on Gaza, supervising. So what more do we even call than terrorism, other than what we are seeing, them supervising over? So what good have they brought to different part of the world? It's just to foster their own pecuniary or let's say
so why are you still receiving aid from them? Why are you still receiving aid from them? If you are saying that, okay, you know what, just what are you doing for us? We do not know or recognize whatever it is you are doing for us. We can handle our issues. Then stop receiving aid from them. Tell them you do not want their investments in this country. Okay. If we are speaking in this manner,
no one will give you aid without gaining anything from it.
So that's, I'm saying that I'm following your line of thought. Right. I'm following your line of thought, talking about, okay, we do not necessarily need them. What have they really brought to the...
needing the U.S., that is not the issue, but military base.
Military base. No, you diverted to something else, talking about what they are doing in other countries. Yes, they haven't brought in some level of stability to the other countries, sub-Saharan countries that we mentioned earlier, and Nigerians are speaking to that. They're speaking their mind, saying that we do not want you, and I believe that they have gotten that message if they are having that thought. But then again, if we are saying that, okay, they haven't necessarily brought anything to the table in terms of stabilizing countries. We have seen from even the report that our correspondent did that they have contributed immensely even to security matters as a country. They have contributed even to giving aids to those who are displaced as it is, which is also a security issue. They have contributed immensely. That's why I'm saying that if we are saying, okay, as much as possible, you haven't necessarily done as much, what have you done to, what you're doing to Gaza, what you're doing to this, what you're doing to that, then I'm saying that, okay, we should now begin to say that we have, since we want to own our issues and deal with it ourselves, let's just shut the door against them, that is what it is.
In diplomatic, what's it called, international diplomacy, you do not act solitarily out, you don't isolate yourself from the global world. There is still, trade and investment. There is still climate issues.
If we are being suspicious, of course, there are an array of
issues.
But
when it comes to security, one has to be
They are all
careful.
security issues.
One has to be very careful when it comes to security, because Nigeria and every other country is a sovereign state, and they have the right to protect themselves and defend themselves. And they also have the right to tell foreign governments what they can do and how much they can offer whatever it is that they have in their own. So no one is saying that U.S. is not doing well, in every other country or helping other country to, in their own way to stabilize other country. But then their own foreign policy in terms of security is becoming very unpopular, looking at what is happening in Gaza, and I stand to be corrected. But then looking at what is happening in Gaza and some other parts of the world, and even the military junta who was saying that, listen, you even want to negotiate with us, you are bringing people that are lower to us in rank. What sort of, effrontery is that? You're supposed to bring somebody who will, represent the U.S.
The bottom line for me in this whole matter is that Nigerians have spoken their minds, and I believe that they have gotten their message.
That's right.
Whatever is unpopular with what the U.S. is doing, that is, for me, their business. And if they are at this point not thinking of rethinking their strategy, then it's left for them to know how they begin to relate with other countries.
They have so many problems within their own country.
Let's bring